The Orphan's Gift. A love destined by fate. The Orphan's Gift. A love destined by fate. Protected by ancient power. Authored by Sylvia B. Sarpong. Some people are born lucky, others are born chosen. I was born with neither of these traits. My name is Shantel Manu. I'm kind, humble, and deeply empathetic. My life began in fire, a fire that took my parents before I could even speak. I was found crying in the ashes of a wreck that should have killed me. The old woman who raised me said I was touched by something ancient. The power of my ancestors, a mysterious gift that shields me from death itself. For years, I never believed her. Until love found me. He was Thomas Kwakye, a billionaire trapped in a loveless marriage, and I, a simple florist, became his forbidden piece. But love blooming in shadows always draws envy from his powerful wife. Leticia Brago, obsessed with control, vowed to destroy me. She tried with lies, bullets, even death. Yet, every time, something greater pulled me back from the edge. This is my story of love, betrayal, greed, and the unseen gift that refused to let me die. My life began with tragedy, dying before I could speak. The car somersaulted several times before it exploded into flames. But a strange wave, a force of wind or fate, threw me out before the fire consumed everything. An old woman named Mame Adjoa heard my cries on her way to the farm. She found me wrapped in smoke and silence, yet untouched by harm. She took me in and raised me in her small clay house on the outskirts of Nkoranza. Growing up, I always felt different. Something unseen would protect me. Mama Joa whispered that I carried the gift of the ancestors. When I turned 25, Mama Joa passed away in her sleep. Her death shattered the only world I had ever known. I left the village with a single suitcase and moved to Accra. There, I worked at Bloomhaven Florist. Flowers became my therapy. They reminded me that even cut from their roots, some things still find ways to bloom. I met Thomas Kwakye on a rainy Thursday afternoon. He walked in, tall, elegant, and lost in thought. He had come to buy roses for his daughter's birthday, but stayed longer than necessary, asking about every flower on display. When our hands brushed as I handed him the bouquet, something electric moved through me. He smiled. "You have a rare touch," he said softly, "the kind that makes even dying flowers come alive." That day marked the beginning of something I never saw coming. He came again, and again. Each visit felt like a secret written between petals and perfume. I later learned he was a billionaire owner of the Kwakye Group. He was married to Leticia Brago, a fashion icon and socialite. The tabloids called them the golden couple, but his eyes told a story of loneliness. Weeks passed, and one evening, Thomas invited me to dinner. We met at a quiet rooftop restaurant. That night, he told me about his failing marriage and Leticia's demand for 80% of his wealth. We met again, and again. Our dinners turned into stolen weekends. Secret getaways in hidden resorts, whispered promises under candlelight. For the first time in my life, I felt seen, loved, and yet, love often blooms on the edge of danger. It wasn't long before whispers began to spread. Our secret was no longer a secret. Paparazzi caught glimpses. Blogs wrote headlines. My small flower shop became the center of relentless gossip. Then Leticia found out. Her voice was sharp and cold over the phone. "Stay away from my husband, Shantel. If you don't end this, you'll regret ever meeting him." I was trembling. But I couldn't end it. Thomas was my peace, my heartbeat. A week later, my car brakes failed while I was driving down the Aburi Hills. The vehicle was a Mercedes-Benz. A gift from Thomas for my birthday. The vehicle spun out of control, the sound of screeching tires echoing through the valley. I remember the plunge and the rush of air before darkness swallowed me. When I woke, I was lying in a thick forest, surrounded by snakes. None touched me, It was as if they guarded me. For 2 weeks, I was missing. Search parties found only burnt metal and ashes. When I finally walked back into the city, alive and unbroken, Thomas wept like a child. Letitia must have known then that something greater was protecting me. People started calling me the woman who couldn't die. But I knew the truth. It wasn't luck or coincidence. It was the gift Ma'ame Ajoa had spoken of. You carry both light and burden, child. Life will chase death away from you, but at a cost. Sometimes, in my dreams, I saw veiled ancestral spirits whispering, "Your purpose is not yet done." Each whisper left a chill in my bones. Every time Letitia tried to harm me, something unseen turned it back. There was a time she hired men to shoot me near my shop in broad daylight. The bullets missed by inches. One even ricocheted and struck one of her own men. I ran, terrified but alive. At this point, Thomas wanted to make our affair public, but his lawyers warned him of Letitia's influence. Letitia had ruthless friends like Tumi Ashade, who constantly poisoned her mind. "Don't sign the divorce," Tumi urged. "Make her suffer, make them suffer." But what they didn't know was that Letitia carried her own hidden sin, a secret lover. Secrets, after all, never stay buried forever. Thomas and I decided to leave Ghana, just for a while. We needed distance from the chaos, from Letitia's shadow that lingered over every part of our lives. But before dawn, the nightmare began, as masked men broke into our villa. Their movements were swift and silent, invading our temporary peace. I tried to scream, but a cloth soaked in something bitter was pressed over my face. Darkness swallowed me whole. The last thing I felt was the bitter cold of the chloroform. When I awoke, the air smelled of salt, rot, and damp earth. My wrists were tied, my head pounding. Thomas lay beside me, breathing weakly. Around us stretched a lonely island, wild, uncharted, and eerily silent. It was Letitia's doing. She wanted us erased from existence to inherit everything. Suddenly, thunder rolled and the sky split open over the island. I heard them whispers riding the wind, voices of my ancestors calling my name. Mame Adjoa appeared in the storm's glow, her eyes burning with light. "It is time, Shantel," she said. "Use the gift." The ground shuddered violently under the force of the ancient power unleashed. Lightning struck the camp area, setting the flammable supplies instantly aflame. The hired men screamed and fled in terror, scattering into the storm. Thomas and I escaped through the chaos, clinging to hope. Even the treacherous trees bent away from us as we fled toward the unseen shore. A rescue team later found us adrift near a fishing boat 2 days later. We were alive, but the fight for our future was about to begin back home. When we returned to Accra, the city felt different, colder, heavier, as if it too remembered what had happened. Also, the news had already broken. Letitia's secret affair with Mason Bamfo, their gym instructor, had exploded across the media. Photos, messages, and recordings proved the betrayal of the gym instructor. Thomas Kwakye, no longer afraid, filed for divorce, armed with irrefutable evidence. The court ruled in his favor. She lost everything: the mansion, the cars, the empire. The empire she schemed to control crumbled around her. I tried to rebuild a normal life, opening my flower shop on a quiet corner in Osu, surrounding myself with colors and scents that reminded me life could still bloom after darkness. Thomas and I kept our love private for a while, healing in silence. Sometimes, when the city slept, he would take my hand and whisper, "I don't know what saved us, Shantel, but I know you're not ordinary." I would smile, thinking of Mame Adjoa. Thinking of the car that exploded yet spared me, the forest that hid me, the island that failed to drown me. Perhaps I was never meant to die, not until my purpose, love itself, was fulfilled. Love persevered against greed and jealousy. The end. Thank you for watching. Follow, like, comment, and share this powerful African romance.